So the High Sierra Shawl by Romy Hill, I saw this pattern actually on Romy Hill's Twitter feed a while ago when I used to be very active on Twitter before the musk ox of doom took it over and turned it into what it is now. Welcome, fellow yarn wranglers, to my Carrie Craftgeek podcast, where I share the story behind my makes, what I am watching and enjoying while I'm making things, the occasional bit of tea, and whatever else might pop into my head, because I never really know what is going to come out of my mouth once I start talking. If you are new to my community, thank you so much for joining us. I am a knitter and crocheter. I have been knitting for most of my life. I've also have begun learning how to spin, how to weave. I pretty much just enjoy making pretty things with pretty string. And on my YouTube channel, I share my favorite tips and tricks and reviews for the various crafts that I enjoy. So this month, I'm going to be sharing with you a finished object, the High Sierra Shawl by Romy Hill. It is on my mannequin currently. I'll be giving you the story behind that make. Also, I got a little bit of a spinning whip. I've been spinning up some blue-faced Leicester wool, my first time spinning BFL, and oh, I have thoughts, I have feelings, I have sensations to share. And finally, if you are someone who has been following my Knit Tea Lives and knows about the case against Sherry Tenney, a wool farmer in Pennsylvania who's been sued by the Pennsylvania Attorney General for not treating her customers so well in a legally problematic way, I have a big update on the case against Sherry Tenney. So hit subscribe, give this a like, make sure that you share my channel with all of your favorite yarn-loving friends, and let's dive into this month's podcast. So the High Sierra Shawl by Romy Hill, I saw this pattern actually on Romy Hill's Twitter feed a while ago when I used to be very active on Twitter before the musk ox of doom took it over and turned it into what it is now. I'm sad that it's not around. Threads is sort of filling that place in my social media life. If you are active on Threads, you can find me there. I'm at Carrie Craftgeek on all the social media platforms that I am active on. But anyway, I was on Twitter one day and Romy Hill put up this photo of her High Sierra Shawl pattern, and I was just like, oh my God, I have to make this. I loved the look of it. I finished this shawl last year, probably around October. I started working on it at the end of September 2023. And that time period in my life is like a complete blur to me. At the time, I was working on a show. If you don't know, I work in reality television. Please don't hate me. It pays the bills. I don't talk a lot of specifics about my work life, what I do to actually support my family, because I work in reality television. I sign a lot of NDAs, and it's just better if I don't talk a lot about it. But I will say it is a lot of long hours and it can be very stressful. And when I'm in the middle of working on a show, I need my pretty string.
She is working on 3 things right now: herself, her life, her peace. Do not disturb.
It was really nice at the end of a work day and my kiddo was put to bed. It was really nice to pick up this pattern and just relax with, you know, whether it was like a ginger, non-alcoholic ginger beer or a very alcoholic red wine. Just sit with my husband, enjoy some TV, and have my knits. I think this pattern, if you just look at it face value, it must be really, really complicated, right? But it's actually not, because at its heart, the High Sierra Shawl is a triangle garter stitch stripe shawl. But what makes it so interesting is it has these modular sections of lace. So you have these really nice relaxing sections of the garter stitch stripes, and then you just when you might be getting a little bit bored, you get a little modular section of lace. The lace sections themselves were very easy to memorize, and they're not terribly different. Each lace section is a different pattern, but they're all sort of variations on a theme. And I never felt like, oh, it's a totally different lace pattern I have to memorize now. It was like, oh, this is different, but it feels familiar, and I'm picking up on what you're throwing down very quickly. So I really, really appreciated it. But what makes this interesting is the shawl is a symmetrical triangle shawl, but the patterning itself is asymmetrical. It starts at the top with a triangle. All right, so you start by knitting a triangle that begins with just a couple of stitches and then grows, and it's this nice lacy detail here at the top. Then you pick up stitches along the triangle, and then you start knitting these garter stitch stripes, and then you get to a section of lace, but the lace insert is only knit on one side of the triangle, so that makes it a little bit asymmetrical. Once you're done with the lace, you pick up a few stitches along the short end of the little rectangle of lace that you've done, and you knit back down the side of the triangle that's just been hanging out while you've been working your lace, and you do another striped section. And the result is you get these peaks of lace knitting mixed in with the garter stitch stripes, and it looks like mountain peaks. And thus the name High Sierra Shawl, I am guessing. One of the neat things too that I really loved about this pattern that appealed to me was that it was designed with a pack of gradient mini skeins. So you have this beautiful fade in the colors with the shawl from lighter to darker areas, and it has one main contrasting color that ties everything together. So if you have a pack of yarn from an advent calendar or mini skeins and you're looking for something to do with it, the High Sierra Shawl is definitely a pattern that you will want to check out. By the way, down in the show notes, you will find links to all the patterns and resources and supplies that I will be talking about today if you are interested in any of them. Some of these will have clearly marked affiliate links. So if you do some shopping with one of my affiliate links, I earn a small commission, and this really does help support my channel. So if you utilize one of my affiliate links or leave me a tip through a SuperThanks or buy me a coffee, thank you so much. It is so greatly appreciated. For my High Sierra Shawl, I ended up using the Wonderland Yarns Cheshire 5 skein pack in the colorway Mimsy, which is this beautiful purple. It goes from dark purple to light purple, like almost a lavender color. And I combined that with Manos del Uruguay lace yarn in the silvery gray. And I just ended up loving the color combination together. The pattern comes with both written and charted directions for the lace sections. I chose to follow the charts. That's my personal preference when it comes to working patterns. But Romy Hill does something kind of what I think is very interesting with her lace charts. She uses a format that I would describe as WYSIWYG, what you see is what you knit. That just means that every symbol on the chart has just one meaning. So if you see a symbol on the chart that's a dot and that's purl, you work that as a purl stitch whether you are working on the right side or the wrong side. If you struggle with knitting charts, you might really like this charting convention that Romy Hill uses, because you don't have to worry about going, wait, am I on the right side or the wrong side? What does this symbol mean? If you'd like to know more about why charts work the way they do and what the general kind of logic behind most charts is, I do have a video about that. My only critique of how this pattern was written is you have these lacy inserts, and when it's time to rejoin the work and the whole triangle back together to start working stripes again, you get to the corner of the rectangle of lace, you kind of have to round the corner so that you can pick up stitches along the edge of the lace, and you can start working back down the other side of the triangle again. I could not find any clear direction on how to round that corner. Maybe I missed it. It's very possible I missed that detail. I was able to figure it out because I'm a fairly experienced knitter at this point, but it's not a clearly described action in the pattern. It's something that you have to more kind of intuit from other parts of the pattern. I hope that makes sense. So when it came to the pattern itself, I really didn't make any changes, except I played around a little bit with my color sequencing, which is something that's encouraged in the pattern itself. In Romy Hill's sample, the darkest color is actually the contrasting color that ties the whole piece together, and it's labeled as color 6, and the pattern calls to end with it. My main contrasting color, which was the Manos del Uruguay yarn, is this lighter gray color, and I really wanted to end my shawl, the last rows, with the darkest color. The problem was I wasn't confident I had enough of the dark purple in my gradient pack to do the last 4 or 5 rows of garter stitch. But I was fortunate. I was very fortunate because the second darkest color in my gradient pack, the value was very close to the darkest color. And I was like, you know, I think between both these two colors, I have enough yarn to finish the very end. And what I ended up doing was alternating rows of the darkest and the second darkest color into the last 4 or 5 rows of the garter stitch at the end, and it blended together beautifully. And I think you'd have to be looking really, really closely in like sunlight to know that I have different values of purple at the very end. And I'm so happy with this shawl. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. I love the color. Obviously, I love the color. I picked the color. But I just love how this works. You know, a lot of times my preference for wearing a triangle shawl is to kind of do that cowl bandana look. I would almost wear this shawl like I was a granny because I could show off the back with these beautiful peaks. Like, this is a pattern where I'm almost like, you know what, if I ever wanted to revisit a pattern, which is very rare, I'm kind of a one and done kind of person when it comes to working patterns. A lot of times it's like, I did it, I had that experience, it was wonderful, and now I never need to make it again. Because there's so many other exciting things I want to make, and I don't have time to repeat. But if I did want to revisit a pattern, this is one that would definitely be on the list because I think that you can have a lot of fun playing around with your color choices. Like I said, it was designed for a pack of gradient mini skeins, but you don't have to do that. You can use any kind of color combination that you want, and it would be kind of fun to maybe explore doing this with maybe just a 3-color scheme or a 5-color scheme, but not in a gradient. You know, you have options is my point in terms of playing around with this shawl and your color choices. If you have been sticking around for the Sherry Tenney update, thank you so much for joining me. If you want to see all of my coverage on the story of Sherry Tenney and the Pennsylvania Attorney General suing this sheep farmer, I have the playlist linked in the show notes. But the too long didn't watch of it all is this. Sherry Tenney is a sheep farmer who has been selling her raw wool on the internet for quite a few years. And she was very popular for a time because she was at first known for someone providing good quality raw wool at dirt cheap prices. You can, even if you search YouTube, you'll find these Sherry Mail videos of people doing unpackings. However, her reputation started to take a tumble after a Tumblr post came out exposing to the wire community some whispers that were going around. And this is what I'm going to insert that right now, these are accusations, these are not proven. I am not a lawyer. Everything I'm going to be talking about from this point forward is in layperson terms. but I will have links to various things to help support what I am saying. But the accusations against Sherry Tenney, well, there was a whole crop of them. One accusation from the Tumblr post has to do with Sherry Tenney poaching customers from other fleece sellers. To paraphrase the account on the blog that's currently up, Sherry Tenney, with the help of sock puppet accounts and other associates, would join Facebook groups of other raw fleece sellers and then contact members of those groups saying that Sherry offered better fleeces that were less expensive. The Tumblr post also claimed that Sherry Tenney and her sock puppets accounts and associates would report the small farms to public media repeatedly until they were taken down, thus preventing the farmer/shepherd from being able to sell. I'm assuming on Facebook. It's a little unclear in the Tumblr post. Is that illegal? Probably not. Is it shady? That's up for opinion. There were accusations that she started sending wool that was moth infested, which is like horrifying to think about, having suffered through a really terrible moth infestation. It is like, as a wool lover, as a yarn lover, as a knitter, one of the most heartbreaking things you can go through is a moth infestation. It is the stuff of nightmares. So there was that, but the big accusation is that Sherry Tenney started not fulfilling her orders, or when she did fulfill the orders, they were not correct. Either they were, the weight was shorted, so there wasn't as much wool as the person had ordered and paid for, or they weren't being shipped at all. And when a customer would reach out asking where their package was, basically we're getting strung along to the point that the customer was outside of the dispute window with their credit card company, and so, weren't necessarily going to be able to get a refund unless Sherry just gave them a refund. So some of these customers filed complaints with the Pennsylvania Attorney General because Sherry Tenney lives in Pennsylvania. And in December of 2022, the Pennsylvania AG filed a civil complaint against Sherry Tenney and Tenney Fiber Farms, LLC. I am reading from portions of the beginning of the filing from the Pennsylvania AG. The Commonwealth has reason to believe that defendants are using or have used method, acts, or practices declared unlawful, and that the public interest is served by seeking before the Honorable Court a permanent injunction to restrain the methods, acts, and practices of the defendant as hereinafter set forth. So the Pennsylvania AG filed this civil complaint. It's a civil lawsuit, so they weren't filing like criminal charges against her. If the Pennsylvania AG prevailed in their case against Sherry Tenney, they were asking that the court levy fines against her and bar her from doing any internet sales in the future. That court case has been winding its way very slowly through the Pennsylvania court, as is the way of the U.S. justice systems. The wheels of justice grind slowly here. And then there was another development. In January 2024, Sherry Tenney filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy in U.S. federal court. But part of filing for the Chapter 13 bankruptcy in federal court is that it gave an automatic stay to the Pennsylvania case against Sherry Tenney. The Pennsylvania AG filed with the U.S. bankruptcy court asking leave, basically permission, to proceed with its case against Sherry Tenney. From my understanding, the U.S. bankruptcy court did tell the Pennsylvania AG that they could proceed with their case against Sherry Tenney, but if there were any monetary fines, there would be a stay put on those monetary fines, because then I think it kind of falls under the debt Sherry Tenney would be under, and that would then be structured under her Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Again, I'm not a lawyer. That's just what I think is going on with that. Now there is the newest twist to the Sherry Tenney case, and I think this one's a doozy. Sherry Tenney is now suing the Pennsylvania Attorney General and 5 specific individuals in the Attorney General's office for civil rights violations in federal court. Yes, she's suing the state of Pennsylvania for violating her civil rights. Unfortunately, I was trying to get a hold of the filing, but I've run into a snag and haven't had a chance to fix it. But I did find an article that gave a summation of what Sherry Tenney is suing under. And I'm gonna have to look at my notes to do this. So this is from the Pennsylvania Record, and they wrote on May 23rd, 2024, plaintiff Sherry Tenney has filed a civil rights complaint against the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General alleging reputational harm and due process violations. According to the filing, Tenney claims that a Facebook group known as Demon Trolls orchestrated false reports of consumer fraud against her business. These reports were allegedly directed to the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General by competitors aiming to disrupt her commercial success. The plaintiff contends that Senior Deputy Attorney General Paul Edgar and Agent Mia Paone, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name correctly, failed to perform necessary due diligence while investigating these allegations. Tenney argues that Edgar and Paone lacked a proper factual foundation for their claims and continued to communicate with members of the Demon Trolls, thereby exacerbating the damage to her reputation. The complaint further alleges that Chief Deputy Attorney General Sarah Frash, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, did not adequately review the findings before filing a lawsuit against Tenney in state court. This lawsuit, titled Commonwealth of Pennsylvania by Attorney General Michelle Henry versus Sherry Tenney, was purportedly rushed for political gain and media coverage without giving Tenney an opportunity to respond or review the allegations. I will link the full article down below, but I have some thoughts as I read through this. What is going to proceed forward are opinions. These are not facts. Again, everything in regards to complaints against Sherry Tenney are allegations, and et cetera, et cetera. And again, I am not a lawyer. So first of all, the article has a slight inaccuracy in it. The article describes Demon Trolls as a Facebook group. Demon Trolls is not a Facebook group. At least I don't think they have a group on Facebook. Demon Trolls is a Ravelry group, and they describe themselves as a consumer advocacy group. They also have a Reddit subgroup called Deravel Trolls. They track small businesses that might be having problems fulfilling orders. They give out alerts to their members about businesses that might be having problems. People come to Deravel Trolls to talk about and sometimes complain about businesses they're having problems with. You know, I think they try to be very fair to businesses, but I don't think they are hesitant to call out a business that they think is not functioning in an ethical way. I think there were people who were having problems with Sherry Tenney who went to Demon Trolls to say, hey, I'm having a problem. And they were advised by people on Demon Trolls of like, hey, you can file a complaint if this is happening to you with, you know, the state AG. And it is true that when the Pennsylvania AG started investigating the case against Sherry Tenney because of these complaints that were filed, that Demon Trolls posted like, hey, if you've had a problem with Sherry Tenney, here's the official form that you can fill out. Does that mean that the Pennsylvania AG and the Demon Trolls were sort of collaborating on taking down Sherry Tenney? I would say no. You know, people file complaints. Consumers will file complaints if they feel like they are possibly being defrauded. And this is not unusual or new. This goes all the way back to Mystical Creation Yarns. When that whole story was going down, I have a whole video about it. People were filing complaints with state AGs, with the FBI on internet fraud. And it is then incumbent upon the government office that receives those complaints to deal with them, meaning investigations. So, you know, Sherry Tenney is basically claiming that these allegations against her are false. And whether that's true or not is up to the courts to decide. I will only say that if you go through the filing from the Pennsylvania AG in their case against her, which I did on a live stream, and the bit of evidence they put into that initial complaint, there is at least one screenshot of a conversation between an associate of Sherry Tenney that the state claims was an agent of hers who was having a conversation with a customer, which appears as though perhaps was stringing a customer along in terms of shipment dates. One of the accusations in the Pennsylvania AG case against Sherry Tenney was that she didn't post proper shipping policies, so there are screenshots of her website to demonstrate this. The Pennsylvania case against Sherry Tenney, at least from what I can see as a non-lawyer, doesn't look like it's predicated just on people filing a complaint. Part of what makes this kind of amusing and funny to me about this allegation of these false reports is that Sherry Tenney is complaining that competitors orchestrated these false reports in order to destroy her business. And the reason I find that funny is that Sherry Tenney is accused basically of undermining her competitors' businesses through what some would consider shady or unethical means. So it feels a little like turnaround is fair play feel to it. Like it's like, people are accusing me of trying to undermine my competitors. Well, it's actually my competitors trying to undermine me. Again, opinion. This I thought was really, really funny. In the article, they're saying that Sherry Tenney is claiming that this filing was made against her for political gain and media coverage. I don't know about the local politics of Pennsylvania, but when I did a Google search for coverage of this story, there's me. There's me and the Tumblr post and chatter on the various forums where chatter is about Sherry Tenney. I do a search for Sherry Tenney sues under the news tab for Google, and it comes up empty. I have to go to all to even find the Pennsylvania Record article. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just not seeing like widespread stories from Pennsylvania media about this case. So I'm not exactly sure what media coverage the state of Pennsylvania is getting through suing a small business owner. Are Sherry Tenney's allegations against the Pennsylvania Attorney General fair or accurate or have any weight to them? I cannot possibly say. I don't have the actual filing, so I don't know what's in the filing that would give weight to what she is saying. I'm not going to speculate on the accuracy or inaccuracy of the complaint. I just find some of the things in the article interesting, and I'm curious to see how this moves forward. But I will say the case against Sherry Tenney and now the case of Sherry Tenney against the Pennsylvania AG, I am keeping an eye on, and I will continue to update this story as the story evolves because I did not see this coming. Now that we've had the update on Sherry Tenney, I'm going to talk a little bit about my own hand spinning. Last week, my fingers were itching, and I remembered that I had in my roving stash this gray-dyed, blue-faced Leicester comb top that I got from Paradise Fibers. Full disclosure, I am an affiliate of Paradise Fibers, so you will find their affiliate link down in the show notes. Side note also about Paradise Fibers, they a couple of months ago had a fire outside of their storefront and smoke went into their store and they lost a lot of their inventory from smoke damage. So they've got a lot going on, kind of wrangling with insurance companies for damages from this smoke damage and various things happening. But anyway, I'm keeping them in my good thoughts because I've really enjoyed products that I've received from Paradise Fibers. I am a member of their Paradise Fiber of the Month Club. I've had nothing but a good experience with this business. And as they get themselves kind of back up and running again, I really hope that we all support them. That being said, I have this BFL yarn. I am in love with spinning blue-faced Leicester yarn. Oh my God. This fiber is like, I was not prepared. I have knitted things with Blueface Leicester commercial yarn before. In fact, I have a couple of these projects that I made from Debbie Bliss Blueface Leicester superwash wool that I got in England a few years ago. It was souvenir wool, and I kind of fell in love with BFL yarn at the time because I felt like, ooh, this is almost as soft as merino, but it's a little more interesting. It was like a little bouncier and a little bit more, I don't know, it just felt like it had a little bit more character to it. Now I have spun some BFL, and I have got to say, I mean, that yarn is just so, so beautiful. Oh my God. It is just, to explain it, it's silky. That's how I'd explain it. It's silky and it drafts so easily. You know, various fibers at this point that I have spun with: Corriedale, Polworth, Rambouillet, Shropshire. I think those are the main fibers that I have spun with at this point. And I gotta say, out of all of them, oh, and I have spun yarn, a merino silk blend, and nothing has drafted so beautifully for me as this BFL. It is just gorgeous. I think this is the finest, consistently finest single that I have spun up. I am just so, so enjoying this fiber. I have about 8 ounces of this fiber to spin up. I haven't decided if I'm going to ply it as a 2-ply or a 3-ply, but I can't wait to have this yarn made and then figure out a project to put it in, because this has been one of the happiest spins of my life. My very shorthand spinning life. But I'm just like, oh my God, this BFL is so beautiful to spin. And I really have needed it, honestly. If I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I started spinning this BFL because I've been a little stressed lately because of my work life. Things in the entertainment industry have been very scary. There was the strike last year. There's been sort of this looming contract with one of the main unions this year called IATSE. I won't get into all the details of it, but it's greatly affected those of us that work in film and television, and reality television, which is the genre that I work in, has been very, very, very slow. It's been so nice to be able to go in and sit at my spinning wheel and just work with this beautiful yarn. There's just something so soothing about being at the spinning wheel and hearing the clickety-clackety of my wheel. It's not a super chattery wheel, but there's some clickety-clackety. But just hearing my spinning wheel spin and feeling the fibers move through my fingers and the motion of it and everything, that is just so soothing and so quieting to the mind. And I just, after I'm done, I always just feel so at peace. And not even knitting quite gives me that. I'm still very much a knitter who spins now, but there's just something about hand spinning that is just like one of the most soothing activities that I have ever done. And that is especially true with this BFL yarn because it has just spun up like an absolute dream. I can't think of any frustrations that I have had with it, like none. It has just been a beautiful, beautiful spin, and I'm really enjoying it. All right, so I think it is time for me to wrap things up. I hope that you have enjoyed this month's podcast, and if so, please make sure to give this a thumbs up, share it with your other fiber wrangling friends, and of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It is a wonderful, wonderful free way to help support my channel and help me keep this going. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know down in the comments below. I do read comments, I do respond to them. And again, I always hope that this is a fun conversation that we all get to have together. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, weekend, weeknight, and you have a wonderful month ahead. And as always, happy health and happy making. Bye.